It's now time for our international press review, and Solange Moujon is back with us in studio. Morning again, Solange. UN General Assembly getting quite a lot of paper coverage.
It is, and one of the major topics of discussion between world leaders this week will be the situation, of course, in North Korea and the pressing fears of nuclear war. Let's take a quick look at the Korean Times, their cover page. On their front page this morning, they have an article that says that the leaders of South Korea, Japan, and the U.S. may decide to talk about military options, that they're already there. They already could be preemptively planning. Now, the article speculates that it would be Mr. Moon who would do the convincing to use military action, and the article goes into the specifics of what military moves they could use right now and which ones would mean full-on war right away. I've also selected an article in The Atlantic. It's from this weekend, but I still think it's pertinent because it asks the question, how can the world break this counterproductive cycle of escalation? And it says that the one, quote, Hail Mary, or the one way out, could be North Korea's foreign minister. His name is Ri Yong-ho. He'll be at the General Assembly, and the article says that he's well-connected and well-respected in Pyongyang, and that he should imperatively meet with his U.S. counterpart, Rex Tillerson. The article says that direct dialogue between the foreign ministers could diffuse tensions and, quote, there's no harm in trying.
And definitely no harm in trying, and one wonders how much of it is rhetoric or how much of it is actual genuine threats from both sides. This, however, will be US President Donald Trump's first UN General Assembly. However, he's kind of vying for attention within his own team at that meeting. Yeah,
there's an interesting article in the New York Times about Nikki Haley. Now, she is the US envoy to the United Nations, so the UN is sort of her home turf. Now, the article is partially a profile of Haley, and it goes into how she's considered a skilled politician. It quotes the French ambassador saying she has, quote, strong political instincts. But the article also goes into how this week could be a test of her influence on Donald Trump. And it wonders how much she can sway the president's opinion in regard to lots of different topics. The article describes how Haley in the past has used her political talents to soften some of Donald Trump's brash and explosive comments and tweets.
And yes, he does like Twitter quite a lot. Again, one of his tweets this weekend getting a lot of traction.
Yeah, on Sunday, Donald Trump sent out a number of tweets, and in one of them, he created a new nickname for Kim Jong-un. He tweeted, quote, I spoke with President Moon of South Korea last night, and I asked him how Rocket Man is doing. Now, the nickname immediately caught traction on social media, and the Washington Post explains that even some of Trump's critics think it's pretty snappy, with its reference to Elton John's song Rocket Man. Now, in the article in the Post, it goes through some of Trump's better-known and often mean nicknames, such as Crooked Hillary and Crazy Bernie, and it also includes the names he's used on himself. He often refers to himself in the third person, saying with the letter T, as in vote T. The article warns, though, that the problem with nicknames is that they are, quote, like little nuclear weapons that encourage others to retaliate.
Now, Solange, tell me, another thing that was added to this UN General Assembly at the last minute is the situation in Burma. You know, an ongoing crisis, also getting, I imagine, lots of paper coverage.
Indeed. Let's take a look at a striking drawing of Aung San Suu Kyi. It's from Canada's National Post, and it shows the Burmese leader with her sort of signature flowers in her hair. This time it's roses, and they are falling down as sort of blood on her shawl. Now, the article that accompanies the drawing is entitled The Saint Falls from Her Pedestal. Now, it's kind of a misleading title because the article is actually about how jihadists are, quote, circling like vultures to try and convince the desperate Muslim Rohingya to join their causes. I've also selected another New York Times article that is in the same vein. It explains that it sort of explains a concern that these militants and other refugees are ripe for the picking, to be indoctrinated by outside movements and international terrorism networks. The article is a sort of red flag saying that the Burmese military could be creating an even stronger anti-government religious conflict by persecuting the Rohingya. And people feel they have no option left.
So, absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's move on to something quite different now. There's a step perhaps towards reconciliation over in the Palestinian territories with Hamas saying it's willing to meet some of the deal breakers for the Fatah and form some sort of power sharing potentially.
Let's take a look at the cover of El Arab. It explains in its cover article that the move by Hamas is proof of the successful maneuverings by Egypt to reorganize the Gaza Strip. It explains that the reshuffling of the political structure has happened because Egypt has managed to sideline Qatar. Why Qatar? Why sideline them? Because Qatar's busy with their own political fighting, namely with Saudi Arabia. And the article cites a number of political sources that they say that they think this is the handiwork of Cairo. Now, quickly, to end on a sort of positive note, I wanted to show you a little story about a koala in Australia. It made headlines this weekend on social media. Earlier this month in Adelaide, Australia, a koala got stuck in a car wheel, and the driver drove 10 miles before knowing it was there. They had to take the wheel off to get the koala out, and the driver said the animal was shaken and in shock, but the vets say she will be okay.
How did she get in there?
Who knows?
Quite impressive to think you can drive that far.
Without looking down at the speedometer once. You're a bad driver there.
But after all those heavier topics,
you need
way
a
to end
little
launch. Thanks
bit
so
of
much
light.
for that international press review.